Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy. If this is your first time listening, thank you for giving my show a chance. And if this isn't your first time listening, thank you for continuing to listen to and support my podcast. This is going to be a different type of episode. I'm going to have an interview with someone whom I admire and absolutely respect, indie wrestler Prince Adonis. And I'll also be paying tribute to Shad Gaspard and Hana Kimura, who we lost this week, along with basically sharing some of my feelings about the Dark Side of the Ring episode with the late Owen Hart, who tragically passed away 21 years ago today. So this is going to be a little different in terms of the vibe that I have, but hopefully you'll still stick with me as I discuss some of the things that were brought to a lot of wrestling fans' attention this week. And hopefully, you'll still learn some things and, just stick with me throughout. So again, welcome to Hardy Wrestling with me, Stephanie Hardy. All right, welcome to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, our first ever wrestling guest. He is the former Nation of Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Mid-South Premier Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Mid-South Elite Wrestling Internet Champion, 2018 Ultimate Championship Pro Wrestling South Wrestler of the Year, and 2019 901 Classic winner, Prince Adonis. Hello?
Hello?
Hey! Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, what's up?
Nothing much. What's up?
Oh, nothing. Just out here trying to survive.
Right. It's crazy out here right now.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much for joining my podcast on today. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Glad we finally got it working. But yeah, I'm in glad to be here.
Oh man, yeah. Forgive technology and all of its splendor. So, Adonis, it's so good to be able to talk to you. I have a couple of questions for you because I've always been fascinated with your journey since I've been following you on social media and everything. So I just, you're my first wrestler. So yes, this is good.
All right. Awesome.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you, when did you fall in love with wrestling and what keeps you in love with it?
Okay, pretty much like when I used to always kind of watch it with my granddad back in the day, and then I really got back into it around the time when Attitude Era started. I've just been with it since then. Ever since then, all those characters caught my. I mean, even when I was little, the characters caught my eye. It was like Macho Man and all those people caught my eye. Jake the Snake. Then when I got older, I started watching the guests. Kind of stopped. Then I started back, and then it was like DX, and DX is awesome. I love DX and all that stuff, and it was like Stone Cold or Rock. The Attitude Era came around. New Age Outlaws, all those guys caught my attention. So I was like, yeah. And I really loved it then. I liked it when I was little, but I loved it when I became a little older.
Okay, so were you more so of a WWE guy or a WCW guy? Did you watch any WCW growing up?
Yeah, that's another thing that I think brought me back into it was the Monday Night Wars. I remember people talked about DX, but they also talked about like NWO too. So I was like, hold on, what y'all talking about? I got to get into this again. So I hopped back. It was Sting. I love Sting, and I loved what was it? NWO Red. Of course, Eddie Guerrero when he was there, when he had the long mullet.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved all that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. The cruiserweight show. The cruiserweights wrestle first for the first hour or whatever they wrestled, and I love this. So they both had their pros and cons. I think WWE didn't have they had the light heavyweight division, but they wasn't as big as WCW's cruiserweight division because WCW had people from like Japan. They had all kinds of people, like people from Mexico, all kinds of people in that little cruiserweight division. And it was just cool.
Okay, so what in particular made you to decide to pursue it as a career?
This is funny. Okay, so we, of course, after when I was through high school, we was watching the Attitude Era. So we started this backyard federation type thing. So we did this backyard thing for like 4 years, and then they just do it with us. He was like, "Man, I got it's a guy that runs a company in Memphis." So he's like, "Y'all want to go in there up there and try out? We can." And I was like, "Hey, okay," because I thought I could do it. I was like, "Okay, it's cool. I'll try out." So that's what got me into it. And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do it."
Okay, so it sounds like you were just willing to just try this new thing, and it actually turned out to do wonders for you then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, do you enjoy the independent wrestling circuit, and what is the culture like? Because I find that for me, I've sort of watched everything on television in terms of the mainstream, and I don't have like a lot of exposure into it. So if you would mind, kind of delving into the culture of indie wrestling, and also if you want to talk about what the city of Memphis is like as a wrestling city, then you can do that as well.
Okay, yeah, it was. It's the indie wrestling scene is kind of weird because it's fun because you can kind of go different places and get your name out there. Like, because at first when I first started, I was just with one company for like, I don't know, 5 years. I didn't know because they didn't tell me. Because sometimes when you're in like the indies or you're in a one company, they tell you don't go to other companies or don't do this, don't do that. They wanted to keep their talent, like it was homegrown, and they wanted to keep the talent there in the same place so they would go out and explore and do other things. So once I figured out, one of the guys left the company that we wrestled at, and he was like, "Hey man, I saw him wrestling somewhere else." I was like, "Hey, how'd you get there?" And I asked him, I said, "Well, put me in contact with that promoter." So he put me in contact with that promoter, and then after that, like another guy, I think I was on, kind of when you're like wrestling, you're kind of on certain people's radar, wrestling other places. So, and I think they like people felt like because I was wrestling at that place that I wouldn't go anywhere else because that's how they run their company. They try to talk the people out of going out and exploring. So when I finally got in contact with that guy, good friend of mine, Ken Dang, I talked to him about it, and then he said, "Well, I'm gonna get you in touch with this guy, this promoter at RSWF, and we're gonna help you get out of there, out the door." So I went, did RSWF, and then all of a sudden my inbox just started filling up with promoters at other places.
Okay.
I just started like exploring a little bit more. Then at first I just did different shows in Memphis and Mississippi, like South Haven and other places. Then all of a sudden, like I got a better car, so I started going further up in Tennessee. Like we went to Jackson, I went to Ripley. I started going to different. So it's kind of like it's not territories. It's just different areas in the state that you can go. Like it's not just one company that's like everywhere. Because I know Memphis has like 3 or 4 wrestling companies, but I wrestled in all of them. My first goal was to be like, okay, I'm gonna wrestle in all the companies in Memphis. After I broke out of that shell, I was like, I'm wrestling all companies in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first goal. Then I was like, I'm gonna go to Mississippi. Then I went to Mississippi and I just started expanding, like going to different places. And I kind of slowed down now because I have a little 3-year-old. But like a year or two ago, I was just going out. I was just going everywhere. I was had a show in North Carolina one time. I still want to go to Texas, but I just started going out and branching out. Then I said I want to wrestle in at least 27 different promotions. I wanted to set a goal that was reasonable, but I'm halfway there. So
okay, that's good. So is the culture, like with the people you work with, are they like supportive to a certain degree, or is there a level, or is there just a level of just straight competition or whatever? How's that like?
It's not really a level of competition unless you're trying to build yourself in just one company. Like and whoever's like, some people want to be like the top guy at that company. So you might have a little competition, like as far as that goes, like with the person within that company. But as far as the brotherhood is real, like it's nice because it has its it's I don't know, it's the way of being good for you and being bad for you at the same time. Because some people will like they'll try to they'll try to talk about your name and put you down. But that's never happened to me before because when I originally trained, it was this guy, it was Reno Diamond and CA Carnage Antoine. They trained me and they taught me how to stay out of drama.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go, I always speaking, I'm always talking to people. But if I hear somebody like saying something about somebody, I kind of step away. So they've taught me. So I think I got a respect out of a lot of other promotions because I never indulge myself into somebody saying something, because like people will ask you certain questions or whatever, and you got to know how to answer them a little bit. So once you get into it, once you get into it, and luckily I had somebody to tell me like kind of stay out of drama. So when I go to different places, it's easy for me to get there. People are always inboxing me like, "Hey, you want to come?" They want me to come and work at their shows because it's easy, because they know I don't have a bad reputation. I have a positive, good reputation. Like if they want me to come out, maybe dress up a little bit, go shake the promoter's hand, speak to him first, speak to all the other guys. They ain't got to stand up. You can stand up, shake all their hands, go speak to everybody in the locker room before you sit down or have your seat. So yeah, it's just all about how you carry yourself in the promotions.
Okay, that's really interesting because I never really thought about being able to carry yourself backstage to a certain degree. And I'm glad your trainers weren't just able to teach you in terms of athleticism, but also teach you in terms of how to treat people backstage and how to set an example for that. That's really good. Like that's not a thing that I ever thought about before, but that is really good, because sometimes in life you have to be single-minded in terms of what your goal is, but then you also can't necessarily be out here acting all kinds of crazy either. So so that's actually really positive to actually hear that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I do have to ask you a question about the crisis and how it sort of affected independent wrestling. Has it affected it in any way, shape, or form that you've seen? And has it affected your career in any way? And do you think it could bounce back from it?
It hasn't affected. It's hit the actual independent wrestling scene really, really hard, because most shows make money off of not a lot of the big companies like the AEWs and the WWEs. The smaller companies make money off of people coming to the shows. Like they don't have TV things where they have their TV sections where they make money off of TV. They're making money off of people actually coming to the shows, buying merch. So I know a lot of the guys, it hurt them a lot. Like a lot of I heard a lot of shows and I heard a lot of indie wrestlers. And I know like a few shows that said they weren't even going to start back up when it's over, when everything's all said and done. They're not going to even start back up.
Oh wow! But
I know a lot of shows that said they're going to open. They're going to start doing shows. So I guess it all depends on like the people's drive that they want to continue doing the shows. So, they have like some people rent rings, but some companies own their own rings, so it probably hit them hard. But a lot of the people that lost their buildings, they were used to, lost the venues, and it hurt them because they have to pay. Cause I know a lot of a few companies, like they have to pay rent. Like they have shows in a actual building that they pay rent to. So I know it's hurting them because they actually have their rings still set up in those buildings. So it's hitting them hard. I know it's hitting them hard. But the guys that actually have the rings broken down and at their house, like the promoters or the people that have rings, they're probably okay. But I know the ones that have to pay rent, it's hitting them bad. And I'm all right though, because I have another income like job, so I'm all right. But I know a lot of guys that are like trying to sell merch online. They're doing everything they can to like get some actual money, because I don't even think they can draw. If they were just only wrestling, I don't think they can draw unemployment. So it's really hurting them. But yeah, that's why if you go online, like if you go on like certain wrestling pages and stuff like that, people are trying to sell their merch on the page just because they ain't got no income at all right now. Yeah, a lot of guys that made their money on the road, like I know a lot of guys. See, I do a few I do shows here and there. I do shows maybe every Saturday, but a lot of guys were wrestling 4 days a week. They were going all over the place. They were driving their cars everywhere. They were doing shows. They had shows like they were like it was their only source of income. Like their job, it's their dream. I mean, it's like it hurt them because they can't do anything but just sit at the house right now. Like they don't have, if they didn't have any money saved up, they was kind of hurt, like real bad. Yeah.
Yeah. See, because I had seen a lot of posts about people selling T-shirts and all of the above, because of the crisis and how it's affecting them. But I just wanted to ask you because you kind of have a front row seat to all of it. So, but I'm glad that you're doing, okay, you and yours are, covered in that aspect. But to everyone who's involved in that, I just, hope that, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So, but I'm glad to hear that you're actually doing okay in all of it. And hopefully, shows can, definitely bounce back from it, because it's kind of harming everyone in terms of wrestling. It's uncertain, but right. So I just had to ask you about that. And I also have another question for you, which stems from something that happened to me last year. Last year, it was on my anniversary. Me and my boyfriend were watching Monday Night Raw, and I saw you. I saw you, and it happened so quick because we was watching Raw, and then there was Seth Rollins, and he had just been beat up, and all of a sudden, I see this EMT that's out here, and I see your head, and I'm just like, there's Adonis. And he was just like, what? And I said, that's Adonis. And I freak out, and then I post it, and then everybody else is freaking out, and then boom, you said it was you, and I'm like, oh my God, I saw somebody I knew on TV. Like, what? So basically what I want to ask you is, what was the process of getting cast as an EMT on Monday Night Raw like? And had you ever, considered the possibility of joining, a bigger, more mainstream company like WWE or AEW or Impact or something like that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So what happened was, I don't know. I sent them a application. Everybody was saying that WB is taking applications right now, so you should submit one. I was like, all right, cool. So I submitted one to the Performance Center, and then I don't know, it was a long time though, because I think I did it in like November at one point. I think that show was like, I can't remember when that show was. I think it was in like March or something like that. But I put one in, and I got an email, and it was one of the executives. I thought, this is a joke. Come on now, like, this is not real. This is spam. So I kind of ignored it. But then one of the guys that has actually done backstage work, and he's been doing backstage work, this guy named Danny Dollar, he's been doing backstage work for them for years. So he was like, hey man, like, that's real, like, accept that. What he told me was, I told them about you. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I emailed the man. It was John Combs. John Combs actually a referee and executive, but he said I emailed him about you, and he inboxed you. He was like, did you put an application? I was like, yeah. He said, yeah, that's real. Go ahead and fill out that, and go ahead and accept it. I was like, what? So I accepted it, and the months leading up to it, because they was like, we need you for 2 shows. We need you for, because they did Raw, it was in Arkansas, and then they did the SmackDown in Memphis. They was like, we need you for 2 shows. So I was like, oh, okay. So I just accepted it. I did a little blood work that I had to do to get in, and then they I was nervous the whole time, because I think I rode, because Danny stays in Memphis. He was like, well, you want to carpool? I was like, yeah, that's cool. Let's carpool. So I rode with him, and at first they were saying, they was like, he was like, did you have all your blood work and stuff? I was like, yeah, I sent all that stuff in. So I thought it was, when we first got there, it was amazing. First off, it was just, everything was just amazing. Then I started seeing wrestlers. I was like, oh my God, okay, this is crazy. But I'm a wrestler, so I gotta stay professional. I couldn't mark out, so I was like, oh, okay. And if they spoke. They shook your hand. They just had to shake their hand. I was like, okay, cool. Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up? Told them what my name was, and then I think we went out to the ring. It was empty, of course, and we went out to the ring, and Viking Raiders was out there, and one of the guys was like, "Okay, we're gonna pick who's gonna wrestle them." So I was like, "Oh crap, this is real." So I thought I was gonna get. He was like, "How long has everybody been wrestling?" Everybody told him how long they've been wrestling, and then he was like, "I told him like 10 years or whatever." And he was like, "I guess I didn't." He didn't. He was like, "Okay, well, they picked." And they was like, "All right, they picked 2 guys." I was like, "Crap, I didn't get picked." So I thought I wasn't gonna do anything. I was like, "I'm just gonna sit here and be in the back." I mean, it was cool. I was in the back, but I was like, I'm probably not gonna get used on TV or nothing. I'm probably just gonna sit in the back. So we were sitting in the back eating catering, and what was it? Bruce Pritchard came back there. No. It was, oh my God, what's that guy's name? I can't think of his name right now. But he walked back. He said, no, it wasn't Bruce Pritchard. He was like, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" I was like, me and the other guy that was EMT. We were like, nothing. He was like, "Y'all want to do y'all? We need y'all for something. Y'all want to work? Y'all want to do something?" We was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." So they was like, of course they was just walking around. They wouldn't tell us what we were doing. We were just walking around like we didn't know what was going on. So they was like, "Go get them some EMT outfits. Get some EMT outfits." And I was like, "All right, well, who are we EMTing with?" And they was like, "Okay, we're finna have a meeting." So we stood in the hallway, me and the other guy, and this other guy had done. Of course, he had done the backstab. He had done stuff before for WWE too, so he wasn't worried about it. He's like, "Oh, they'll find something to do with it. They might not." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So we're standing back there waiting, and Brock Lesnar walks up and put his arm on my shoulder. I was like, "What the?" So I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Then Seth Rollins comes up.
Oh my God!
And they they were talking to us, and then Paul Heyman comes up and he was like, "What's your name?" I was like, and I told him what my name was. He was like, "How long you been wrestling?" And I told him I love Paul Heyman because he always looking for talent anyway. So I'm like, I'm really trying to talk to him. So and I was like, because I remember they tell you don't talk to the talent unless they say something to you. So I was just talking. I was like absorbing it. I was like, okay. So if he's asking me questions, so I'm going to talk to him because it's Paul Heyman, and I want to talk to him because he's Paul Heyman. So I was talking to him, and then they was like, "Okay, we're going to use all in this segment." And then they went over whatever we was going to do. And then I hear a little raspy voice walk up, and of course I turn around. It's Vince. I was like, "Oh my God, it's just this is everything right here. Like, this is crazy." And I was like, "All right, I know I'm in some main event stuff at this point." If all of them had walked up and started talking to us, I know I'm doing some main event stuff at this point. And they was like, "Y'all in the main event segment. Y'all in the main event segment, and y'all gonna come back. Y'all gonna go get Seth and bring him back to the back." I was like, "Oh my God." And I thought I wasn't doing nothing, and then I ended up being in like the main segment on USA. I was amazed.
Wow.
It was man. It was just I can't explain it. It's just it was awesome. Yep. And I would, yeah. And if given a chance, I would go on a heartbeat. Like if they would have called me, I'd pack up my family and just go. I'd go down there.
Yeah, because it's so funny when I was actually watching a couple of your matches on YouTube. As I was watching you wrestle and just your swagger and how you come out and all of that, like I could see you on NXT someday. Like I could see you on NXT one day, just chopping it up all of them and just being, like having your own personality and everything and fighting all the people on there, all the new talent, and then maybe like even the mainstays and all of that. Like it's just like watching you in the indie show was just kind of like looking at a very bare bones version of NXT when I think of that, and it's just like I love your energy, and I like your style, and I also definitely like your theme music.
Thanks.
I love your theme music because it reminds me of Coming to America, like a hip hop version of that intro that they did for the King. And it's just like, I love this song. Like, I like this. Okay. So I definitely would love to see you, if the opportunity were to ever arise. I'm putting this out there in the universe. I'm speaking it. If I'm speaking it, if you get on NXT, I'm gonna be so proud of you. I'm proud of you anyway, but like if you get on there, I'll be like, yes. But yeah. So I have another question. Are you really of Ugandan ancestry?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay. I'll let you explain that.
I just, I did what do you call that thing that you take the DNA test and it traces all the way back to your ancestry? That's it, ancestry. I think that's what it is. But I did it, and I did one of those, and I was like, at first I was just gonna say I was from, I just wanted actually that gimmick did come from Coming to America. It was a mixture of Coming to America and Black Panther. So I was just gonna say I was from Kenya or somewhere, just gonna name a random place. And then I did some ancestry stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, I am part Ugandan. I don't know how much percent, like, I can't remember, like 50%, something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I looked it up, and I was like, Ugandan actually still has royalty, like princes and stuff. So I was like, I'd just be like a Ugandan prince. And so that's what I went with. Because before, I was just, how indie wrestlers some indie wrestlers don't really have gimmicks. They just wrestle on their name. Like, I was just wrestling as Adonis Staples, and I was like, that was my thing for, like, I don't know, about 6 years. I was just wrestling as myself. I didn't really have a gimmick. I didn't have anything. And then once I started, as soon as I started that gimmick, I started getting a lot more bookings, because I added so much more to my character. So I just started getting more bookings from that character change, me adding that to my gimmick. And then I got a manager. I was like, okay, my best friend, he was like, he wanted to get into the business a long time ago, and I was like, he trained with me like when we first started training, but he didn't finish the training. But then I was like, man, I'm gonna get you in one way or another. So we did an indie show, and I was still just Adonis Staples. And I was like, I let him manage me, and he did. I thought he did really good. So he was like, I was like, look, you're gonna be my semi when I start this new gimmick. And so we did a show at Marvel Elite. It was in Memphis. It was Miss South Elite Wrestling, MEW. And this guy was like, at first he was like, no, we're not gonna use him. Then the next show came, and he just started using him. He's like, okay, he can go out with you, fine, that's fine. He can go out with you. So then he started coming out there and just screaming hollering at the fans. So he always, you know how Sammy was kind of mean. That's how his gimmick was, and I was still like Eddie Murphy. Even though I was a heel, I was still like grinning and smiling, and he was so mean. And he used to walk out the crowd, and they used to start booing him as soon as he came out the crowd. Like, he always came up before me. So I was like, okay. So we worked with that for years, like maybe like 2 or 3 years. We worked with that gimmick. As far as me being, then I had to turn babyface, and I had to turn on him for a little bit. So when I started the new with my vest, I was like militant type leader deal, like this militant prince. So that's what I'm doing now. And of course, when I turn back like that, guess who comes back? They bring him back. He comes back with me again with his vest on. So fans were like, "Oh my God, I hate it! They hated it." They were so happy when I dropped him. But then I was babyface for like a year. Then I was like, okay, it's getting kind of old. this grinning is getting kind of stale. All right, so I got that. Then I went and I talked to this guy, and this guy here, he also gave me a chance to really talk on the mic and be myself. He was like, why are they not using you like this? Because I think if like when I started wrestling for a while, he was like, they're kind of making a joke out of your character. Not my manager, but the new booker. He was like, they're making a joke out of your character. So I want to bring you in. We're gonna make your character. We're gonna, I like your character. I like your gimmick. But we're not gonna make you a joke character. We're gonna make you. You're gonna actually, because you're actually a good athlete. We want you to actually be, actually wrestle. Like have really, really good matches. Like if you want to go out there and like showcase, instead of wrestling for 15 minutes, you can wrestle for 20 to 30 minutes if you want. We're gonna showcase your talent. And he was like, and he really wanted to use me. He really started pushing me real good. And he was like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna let you talk on the mic. We're gonna let you, because I didn't really do a lot of mic talking anyway. But then but I knew I could because of The Rock. I really loved The Rock, and I was like, man, I knew I could talk. If somebody just give me a chance to just run my mouth on get the microphone and just let me go, I can go. And that's what I've always wanted to, because I knew I could. I was like, I know I can talk on the mic. So if somebody just give me a chance to talk on the mic, I'm talking, and I'm just gonna go crazy with it. So that's what I did. And with the face character, I couldn't really say what I wanted. I could say certain things, but when I went heel, the militant heel, I could really say what I wanted. And I really enjoy that because that's what I'm doing now. So I really, really enjoy that.
Okay. Now I do have another question. What is your proudest wrestling achievement thus far? And what goals do you have for your career? And do you have any dream opponents?
Yeah, well, of course, you probably know my proudest achievement at this point is WWE. Like, no questions about it, no questions asked. Because you learn a lot of. You get into, in indie shows, you can only learn so much. But when you go in at WWE and the production and all the stuff is just like, and it's kind of funny that everybody's not as tall as they look on TV. But yeah, I had to point that out. Nobody's as tall as they look on TV because I was a lot of those guys' heights. Me and Ricochet were the same height. I was like, man, wait, these guys ain't as big as I thought. Me and AJ Styles, I was like, wait, these guys are smaller, some of them, because Randy Orton looked like a monster. Drew McIntyre looked like a monster. Of course, Brock Lesnar, he was tall, but he didn't look like a monster, but he was wide, like he's really wide. So I was like, oh, but a lot of those guys, you were like, hey, y'all ain't that big. So I thought that was cool to see that I was like almost as tall as a lot of the wrestlers that I liked and a lot of idols that I had. Yeah, but that's my number one goal, and that was my number one achievement. And my dream opponent would be Kenta. I always say I would love to wrestle Kenta. And see, a lot of my opponents are like Japan people. I would love to wrestle. Like I would love to wrestle Kenta. That's number one. Cody Rhodes. I can't just name one.
No, that's fine.
Cody Rhodes. Yeah, Naito. If I had one in WWE, it'd probably be Finn, because I love Finn. Like he's one of my favorites too. So Finn would be a good one. What was I about to say? Yeah, and that'd be. That's what you asked. I think. What you asked after that?
Basically, you basically answered all the questions because I asked you what your proudest achievement was and what goals you have for your career and do you have any dream opponents. So you basically answered all of those.
Okay. Oh yeah, and I do want to. A lot of my friends, like a lot of guys that I've worked with personally and wrestled with currently, have been to AEW and wrestled at AEW Dark. So I have to get in that door because I know Marco Stunt personally. I have to get in the door. I know one of the guys from Daquan, the guy from Private Party. I know those guys. So I just and I know they got some more people on. Like they helped them get in the door. So if I could get in there and just wrestle on AEW Dark, I would love to do that.
Oh, that would be amazing. Now it's so funny that you mentioned Private Party because I actually mentioned them earlier in. Well, I was basically recording my segment to pay tribute to Shad Gaspard. And I had mentioned that Crime Time had actually opened the doors for people like the Street Profits and the New Day and Private Party to sort of be who they are. So I did want to ask, how did you feel to not really wanting to transition into something that was really sad, but just wanted to discuss something that actually did happen this week in terms of Shad Gaspard, and also with Hana as well.
Oh yeah.
So how did you react to all of this news on this week?
Oh, it's just terrible. I think it was like a bad day. I'm worried now because they always say things come in threes. So I'm just hoping that doesn't come true with like the wrestling community because it's just this is like I don't know. And then the cyberbullying, all that stuff it's just wrong. Like I was like what was being said that that made her go so far and it hurt her that bad. And I was like, man, that's crazy that stuff could turn wrong like that. As far as the Chad thing, I'm kind of proud of him. Because he is a real superhero. Like for him to tell them to take his son instead of him, that just meant like everything to me. It's being a father, that meant everything. But I hate, when I know they kept saying like they calling off the search. I was like, oh man, it's like I was like, my heart dropped. I was like, it can't get no better from here. If they can't find, because when they didn't find him Sunday, I was like, man, maybe Monday. And then I was like, and then they didn't say anything else. They didn't say anything else like in the news outlets, anything all day Monday. I was like, then they called off the search, and then I was like, man, how he gonna turn up after a while? Like, and then he did. I was like, shh. Yep. And it hurt a lot of people like that. I'm kind of friends with, like Elijah Burke. I follow him. Like, me and him are friends on Facebook, and like he watches my stories every once in a while. I'm always hopping on his lives when he's on there talking. It hurt him so bad, and it was like a lot of the wrestlers that I follow, because I'm not friends with a lot of guys, but I know. And when Coffee posted what he posted on Instagram, I was like, oh my god,
yeah.
And oh my god, and JTG, I didn't even want to see what he was gonna post. I was like, man, I don't want to see it because I watched that video because I think somebody posted that video before they found him. They posted a video of MVP and him crying when Coffee won the belt. And now when they first showed that, I cried, and when they showed it again, I cried again. When they showed it, I was like, man, and I cried about it. And then I remember MVP said something about he didn't want Chad to share that, but now that he shared it, he feels like he said he called him and apologized to him before, when he called and apologized to him. He was like, you know what, I didn't mean what I said to you about you posting that video. I thought it should have been an intimate moment, but it's fine. He told him it was all right that he shared it. Like, I think there's some along the lines like that what he said, and then people were sharing it again, and it was just like it was truly heartbreaking. It was like, man, that's crazy. And I was just sitting up by myself, like crying, and I was like, yep. I just cried about it because I was like, man, it was just sad.
It is, but ultimately, I just try to just sort of think about it in a sense of just to remember him for all the joy he brought, and also for and just for him and his contributions, to society outside of wrestling, because he had, another career outside of that in terms of doing, movies and video game stuff for God of War, and
I saw him in Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey.
So it's just like I just try to sort of, remember him for the person that he was. He was selfless. He, stopped a robbery at one point. Like, he was really I remember really selfless out here. And I believe that's really, the beautiful part about, his spirit. It's just the fact that he was so very selfless in, doing what he wanted to do, and selfless in the idea that he was trying to take care of his child. And as a parent, that's as I imagine it, that's all you can ask for, because I don't have any children, but all I would imagine is if I was a parent, maybe I would do the same thing. So, right. I will end this interview by thanking you so much for coming on my podcast, because I'm just starting this thing. So it's just kind of like, I'm just really grateful that you are my first wrestling interview, and I'm just really excited for all that's about to happen to you in your career, and I just wish you absolutely nothing but the best.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having me on. Thank you for thinking about me, considering me being your first wrestling guest. So, and I hope it does well. Like, I hope your podcast does well, because it's something you knew you're doing, right? It's something new that you're just not starting up.
I started it most near the end of January is when I started it. So, I try to do it every once in a while, like every weekend, because I work as well. So I just try to do it every weekend, because I just wanted to, just do some wrestling content, because it just felt natural to me. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's really, it's just me as a fan just sort of talking about all the things I'm passionate about in terms of wrestling. So it's coming along great, and I'm grateful every day for it.
Oh, okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
And keep up the work. Yeah. It'll take off. It'll pay off in the end.
Thank you so much for coming on my show.
All right, no problem. Had a good time.
You be good. Have a good day.
All right, bye-bye. You too.
All right, so I'm gonna start my tribute component of this episode by talking about Hana Kimura, who we lost on yesterday. The news broke like late last night and early this morning about how this incredibly promising 22-year-old girl who came from a wrestling family just was dealing with some demons, and then they found out that she was dead, and it was announced on Stardom Wrestling's Twitter page. They're another wrestling organization based in Japan, and they announced that she had passed away, and they asked for thoughts and prayers for the family. And it caught me off guard last night because, number one, sadly enough, I hadn't heard of her up until this point, but it saddened me to hear about any person, losing their life in whatever way that they're speculating how it happened. But it sort of hurt me to know that she was going through so much pain inwardly to make her, feel like it just wasn't worth it anymore. And I don't want to make any, assumptions of how she passed, but from what people are saying on Twitter, what happened to her was the fact that she issued a string of social media posts that implied that she had been cyberbullied online due to a characterization on a reality show called Terrace House, and filming had been suspended due to the crisis. But on the show, from what I heard, she had got into a confrontation with someone on the show, and she had been cyberbullied endlessly, and she was talking about how there was about over 100 posts a day basically critiquing her and basically thanking her mother for giving her a life in which she wanted love, and she said goodbye in her last Instagram post with her cat. And I believe a lot of people on Twitter were saying that she had even posted pictures, posted pictures of her possibly self-mutilating. And it saddens me to no end that a person who is as young as she is, it's sad if it happens to anyone, but someone who is as young as she is, who had so much promise as a women's wrestler and who's worked with so many people, even in WWE. Asuka released a statement in Japanese stating on Twitter that she remembered watching her come to wrestling matches with her grandmother, and how she had actually met her and worked with her, and now she's gone in the blink of an eye. And what makes it worse is just the fact that there are people online to a certain degree who will literally troll you to the point to where, they'll make a person who they don't have any clue is actually feeling all these fragile feelings, who are probably hanging on by a thread. And then once you say all of these terrible words to them and make them feel like they're crap, it knocks them off of that one thread, and it makes them feel like there's no point anymore. And it saddens me that we'll never truly see her fullest potential in what she was able to do. She had won a couple of championships, and a couple of awards to her name, especially being ranked in the PWI Women's Wrestling 100 and a lot of different things. And it just breaks my heart to know that even in the midst of every good thing that she was able to contribute to people's lives professionally and personally, she felt like no one cared about her. And mentally, that's a dark place to be in. And my heart goes out to her family and her friends, and how they now have to deal with a world without her now. And I just want anyone who's listening to this show to understand me and hang on to my voice as I'm saying this. You absolutely matter. You have a place and a purpose in this world. And if you are feeling like you have dark feelings, please reach out for help. You can even come to me for help, message me. I'm on all social media platforms. Message me, or just, ask me anything, or, you can just talk to me about anything. But definitely, if you can't, reach out to someone who you feel truly cares about you and doesn't just love you conditionally. Please don't, just, if you're feeling all of these feelings, please reach out to someone, because I believe anyone in your life would much rather have you reach out to them before it's too late. And, I just want everyone to know that you absolutely matter. Who you are matters. The light that you bring matters. And don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let anyone who decides to say negative things about you or magnify, the mistakes that you make you feel like that you don't matter either. Please, you matter. To me, to anyone who listens to this podcast, you absolutely matter. And I just want to use this time to say rest in peace to Hana Kimura, and may her soul find rest. So now, as a second part to this tribute component, I want to talk about Owen Hart, whose tragic passing 21 years ago today rocked the wrestling world from then all the way up until now. And now I remember my journey with it was the fact that I saw their tribute show when I was a child. This is 1999. And I was like, I just didn't know what was going on at the time. So as I've gotten older, of course, I've been able to sort of gain more and more understanding of what happened to him at that point. And I want to start this by saying, of course, there's nothing but love and respect from me to the Hart family and everything that they went through in this process and with the grieving process and all of it, An episode, which was the season finale of Dark Side of the Ring, came out Tuesday, talking about Owen Hart and what type of person he was as a family man and a husband and a father. And what was discussed was all the events that took place before and after he passed. And I can't detail the entire story because it's not my story to tell. So I would suggest that you would watch that episode. If that's what you want, please watch that episode if you want to gain more understanding about the situation. But Owen Hart passed away from injuries he sustained from a fall, from being released from a harness from the top of a building that was having a pay-per-view at the time that was called Over the Edge in Kansas City. And as he fell, the cameras were sort of off of the ring for a while, and then it was Jim Ross, who's a legend in the commentary, in the wrestling commentary space, had the unfortunate responsibility, as he called it, to announce that he had passed away in front of all those people. And I think the worst part about the entire situation to me that resonated hard was the fact that the wrestlers had to keep going. All the people who he worked with were called upon to keep the show going after that. And even after they had heard the news, like, there were people who were still forced to have to go on pay-per-view and pretend like none of this was going on. And I think that, along with the trauma that it put on the Hart family and how it basically sort of separated them to a certain degree, was just the worst part of all of it. Because when someone is lost in that way, I really feel like when you're in the entertainment business, if someone is lost in a show atmosphere like that, they should be given space to either process what's going on and space to grieve. And I really feel like they truly weren't given that space back then. Now I'm pretty sure to a certain degree they would give their superstar some space to feel everything and to understand what's happening and the gravity of it. But back then it was not the best choice. And I will say this though, I respect everything that Owen Hart had done. In watching the clips, I was able to understand what type of wrestler he truly was. And when you come from the Hart dungeon, you are basically destined for success in this wrestling business in any way, shape, or form. And since he came from Stu and Helen Hart, who were promoters who had those 12 children, including him and Bret, the Hitman Hart, he had all of the technical wrestling prowess to make it and be successful. He was a multiple time tag team champion. He was even king of the ring at one point. And he was a 2-time Intercontinental Championship, European champion. Like, he had it all. And I feel like he sort of got a little bit lost in the shuffle in terms of how they were booking him, because they weren't sure how to book a straight up wrestler, to get over on television, as a character. And it saddens me that him having to go back to the whole superhero Blue Blazer character ultimately led to him led to him losing his life. And what I will say is this, is that a completely telling moment in the show was when Dr. Hart, his wife, mentioned that as he was falling, a lot of eyewitnesses said that they heard him saying, "Look out." And I believe that's incredibly telling of the type of man he was. He was selfless, that even in his last few moments, he was looking out for all those people and basically asking them to, but not even asking them, but just telling them to just look out as he was falling to his transition. And I just want to say that on this show, he was a great wrestler. What he gave and the inspiration that he gave for Canadian wrestlers everywhere, and just wrestlers period, will always live on. And all the work that's done under his name, under the Owen Hart Foundation to help families, will always live on forever. And I hope that he's always looked at and admired as a wrestling legend. And I hope that his spirit is resting in eternal peace and that he has happy trails. All right, in this last tribute, I will be paying tribute to Shad Gaspard. To us wrestling fans, he was a part of the tag team tandem Crime Time in the WWE. They had 2 tenures with the WWE where they worked, and they were both sort of characterized as, I want to say black gangsters, and I'm trying to say that, I'm trying to say that to sound as best as I possibly can. They were characterized as basically black gangsters, and they were going around causing mischief, stealing random stuff, making people laugh, and all of the above. And I remember when I was a kid, it's just kind of like looking at them, it's just kind of like looking at people, sort of pretending to be rappers or something. But watching some of the stuff back now, it's like I can look at it and laugh to a certain degree. And as I think about their tag team work, I just can't help but some of their outlandish stunts, basically walked so people like the New Day and the Street Profits and Private Party on AEW could run. And I absolutely appreciate Shad and JTG for what they brought to the table. Now, outside of wrestling, Shad Gaspard had a little bit of a movie career. And he also was a body double for the God of War video game, for Kratos, if you guys know about that. And he was also known for basically stopping a robbery at some point, I believe in 2016. And he had moved on and proceeded to, get married to this beautiful woman, Hana Gaspard, and had a child, who is now 10 years old. And last week, the news came out that as Venice Beach opened up, Shad and his son went to the beach, which was like one of their favorite places to go. And they got caught up in a riptide. And along with that riptide, there was a lifeguard who was trying to recover them both from the water. And Shad was absolutely selfless in the idea that he wanted the lifeguard to save his son first. And as he said save his son first, and the lifeguard was able to recover his son, he turned back around and Shad was gone. Now, at this point, a lot of people on social media were hoping and praying that he was going to be okay, and he was going to be recovered, and maybe he had swam ashore or all of the above. But as of Wednesday, it was not the case. And they recovered him and his body, and he was dead. And at the age of 38. And that just devastated me, and it gutted me, and I felt like I really couldn't focus, because it was just like I think I, like everyone else, was just hoping for the very best in that situation. But the one thing, the common denominator, after having found out about a lot of the stuff that Owen Hart had gone through prior to his death, and also with Shad Gaspard and how he transitioned into the next life, I find it telling that the both of them were selfless in the idea they were looking out for the people around them. Owen Hart was looking out as he was falling for, the people beneath him. And Shad was looking out for his son, and he was being the ultimate father. And I know I've never been a parent in my life, but I would hope that if I were to ever become a parent, that I would want the best for my child. And he really did seek to protect his child in that situation. And he will always be a hero to me, and he will always have my respect. And I believe yesterday they did a tribute to him on the same beach with pictures of him, pictures of his family, pictures of him, doing wrestling stuff, and pictures with him and his son. There was one beautiful picture, which was, I believe, the last picture he posted on his Instagram, of him holding his son. And you can tell that his family was his whole world. And there were also clips of him hanging out at Wale Mania last year for WrestleMania with a lot of different wrestling personalities, including Kofi Kingston. And he was and then there's also another video that's running around on social media where he was watching Kofi Kingston win the title last year with MVP, and how both visibly emotional they both were. And honestly, it seemed like he was always out there, living his best life and putting his best self out there, even at the point of sacrificing himself. And I want to give my thoughts and prayers to his fans in Brooklyn, because someone else that I follow and listen to a lot on YouTube, Chiseled Adonis, said Brooklyn, has taken an L, and wrestling fans have taken an L, and we collectively have this week. And I absolutely agree with those sentiments. I salute Shad Gaspard, and there's also a GoFundMe account raising money for the family right now. That's up. I know Authors of Wrestling had put it up on Instagram, but maybe I'll post it on my podcast page outlets if you have a mind to donate. But I'm just grateful for Shad Gaspard's legacy. I'm grateful for everything that he contributed to the wrestling business, but also grateful for how he contributed to the lives of others. And I wish him and his spirit Godspeed, and I hope he is at rest, and I hope that he is a now part of the wrestling Valhalla of all those great people who are wrestling each other and fighting each other, in heaven right now. So this is it for the tribute segment of this show. So collectively, I would like to say rest in peace to Owen Hart, rest in peace to Hana, and rest in peace to Shad Gaspard. Thank you so much for listening in on this special show. I know it was different than my other episodes, but this week was just a lot to handle and a lot to process in terms of everything that we had gone through as a wrestling community. But we are strong and we are resilient and we are powerful. So I would just encourage us to share all kinds of happy memories. And I do want to thank Adonis for coming on my show and actually, us having a good conversation and good vibes all around. And I just want to leave you guys with this. Always know that who you are just truly matters in the grand scheme of life. And always do your very best to put forth good energy in the world, because you just never know when it could all end and when everything can just change in the blink of an eye. So with that in mind, I thank you for joining in on my show today. And I hope that you continue to follow me on all of my social media platforms. That's at Hardy WrestlePod on Twitter, and at Queen Steph Hardy on Twitter as well, and at Queen Steph Hardy on Instagram, and at Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram. And I also have a new Facebook page. That's the Hardy Wrestling with Stephanie Hardy Facebook page, where I post about different events and different stuff that I have going on with the different shows that's happening and the different stuff I have going on with my show, and different guests and all of the above. So also, if you want to reach out and actually talk to me on those platforms, you definitely can, because I actually did talk to a fan this week about his son being a 6th grade wrestling champion. So that was really an amazing conversation to have. So if you have any questions that you want to bring my way, or swing my way, you can always message me on any of those platforms, and I can discuss it here on the show. So with that in mind, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have a fantastic weekend and an even better week. And until next time, this is Hardy Wrestling with your girl, Stephanie Hardy. Bye, y'all.